Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to Liminal Boundaries. I think we're on day 8 today, and we're doing synthesis of the Ballad of Garvin Hackett. So for those of you who are new to the channel, this is a streaming channel where I am live writing a feature-length screenplay. My name is Franco, and I work as a professional script doctor. So this is sort of a way for you guys to get a chance to see uh, the process of writing live. So we can go over it. Basically, it's a write with me. So if anybody shows up in the chat, and I have my chat ritual, which is there's usually nobody here. So I'm like, hello, everyone. One day there's going to be somebody in there. So write with me. And it's live writing from scratch, live screenwriting from scratch, day 8, synthesis, Garvin Hackett. So we've been doing research for the last few days. Garvin Hackett, for those of you who don't know, welcome to live screenwriting, The Ballad of Garvin Hackett. That's the name of the screenplay. It's a movie script being written completely from scratch. The Ballad of Garvin Hackett is an ironic, darkly comic take on 90s action movies. It's kind of like Forrest Gump meets Scarface, directed by Michael Bay. I'm going to change that. It's not directed by Michael Bay. It's actually directed by Sidney Lumet. Look at that. That's a big change there. Except the laws of physics actually apply. And instead of going the traditional development route, I'm writing this movie directly for you in public with the idea of turning it into a cinematic graphic novel, which is, I think, a new format that's just become potentially commercially viable with the advent of AI and these new diffusion technologies. So we're going to test that. This is sort of a proof of concept. So grab a notebook or a keyboard and write along with me. And if you want to follow along from the beginning, please check out the Liminal Boundaries channel at this link right here. And the link will be in the description for this video. So that's about it. Let's get started. So Garvin Hackett. So where were we? The last thing we did was a lot of research. So let's look at some of the research questions we answered just to get our bearings and where we were. Okay, so we already did research on Garvin's father, James Robert, and Garvin's girlfriend, Tammy Lynn. And then we were doing research on Joel Gillette. He's our bad guy, right? So the European MDMA distributor. And since this takes place in 1994 in South Beach, South Florida, we have to do a little bit of research onto what a person who, one of the Europeans who came from Europe to South Beach, and he had money, like how did he get his money and what happened there. So those are the three that we've really generated a lot of research information about. And we have to sort of start digging through that and turning that into story. So we've got some notes. We've got some set piece locations, the South Beach Renaissance nightclub scene, models on South Beach. So we're using this already because we have Joel owns a modeling agency. That's one of the things we discovered that would be a great front, right? To be the owner of a modeling agency. And then party at Joel's house, the gay club scene circuit like Warsaw or Amnesia are on South Beach. I think I remember, was it the Warsaw Ballroom? I don't remember. Anyway, Port of Miami Longshoremen for the Booby Boys. Yeah, so these are some set pieces, some locations, some location ideas. And that's based on our research, what we discovered. The Booby Boys is actually a real gang that we're going to use fictionally as the rival gang to Joel's gang. And I considered a complication where Garvin accidentally kills a Fed and doesn't know he's undercover, which is quite possible when he's taking out a bunch of gang members. So that's where we were. But what happens is that we have to look now. Let's see if I have any ideas if this is old stuff. Okay. This is more Jackson stuff. Okay. So let's go to our characters and let's see who we have a lot of information about, and maybe we can try to fill in those character sheets a little bit, or maybe try to fill in some A story, B story kind of stuff. So we'll go back a little bit. And So we've already got story A, and I believe that's nicely filled in. Okay. So let's see what we got. Setup. Garvin's dad is killed by a criminal gang. Garvin vows revenge. So, Garvin's dad is killed by mistake. By Whitey. Actually, we should say Whitey Jackson kills Garvin's dad by mistake. And we should be here while trying to kill the leader of the Booby Boys gang. And let's see. So while Whitey Jackson, while trying to kill the leader of the Booby Boys gang, by mistake, kills Garvin. Yeah, let's go here. By mistake, kills, instead of Garvin's dad, let's give him our name so we know we have a name now. And it is James Robert Hackett. So let's go to that. To the A story. So Whitey Jackson, while trying to kill the leader of the Booby gang, the Booby Boys gang, and we should give Whitey Jackson a hitman. He's a button man. A button man for Joel Gillette's gang. Whitey Jackson, a button man for Joel. Okay, yeah, let's do this. 1994, Miami. Whitey Jackson, a button man for Joel Gillette's MDMA drug gang. Let's call him a drug gang. For Joel Gillette's drug gang. Accidentally kills, God, I forgot his name. Hackett. Garvin's dad. James Robert Hackett. All right, James Robert Hackett. So, 1994, Miami. Whitey Jackson, a button man for Joel Gillette's drug gang, accidentally kills James Robert Hackett while trying to kill the leader of the rival Booby Boys gang. Okay. All right. And then we go Garvin. James Robert's sons. Doesn't know who killed his father, but vows revenge. So that's the setup, right? 1994 Miami. Whitey Jackson, a button man for Joel Gillette's drug gang, accidentally kills James Robert Hackett while trying to kill the leader of the rival Booby Boys gang. Garvin, James Robert's son, doesn't know. Yeah, let's start with James Roberts' son, Garvin Hackett. Let's say make him 22. 22-year-old Garvin Hackett doesn't know who killed his father, but vows revenge. So escalation 1. Garvin grabs an M60 machine gun and goes searching and goes walking down the street and walks down his suburban street. Walks down his suburban street. Okay, searching for his father's killers. That's the first escalation. The second escalation is Whitey Jackson, who convinced Garvin that the Booby Boys actually killed his father, trains Garvin to be a killer in prison. So I say, in prison, Whitey Jackson convinces Garvin that the Booby Boys actually killed his father and trains Garvin to kill so he can get revenge. Okay. Cool. Escalation 3. I think we don't need escalation 3. He joins Joel's gang. But trains. We need a verb there. Okay, in prison, Whitey Jackson convinces Garvin that the Booby Boys actually killed his father. And trains Garvin to kill so he can get his revenge. Okay. And I think the next escalation, so he can avenge his father's death. Avenge his father's death. Okay. All right. And escalation 3 is so he becomes notorious. Let's see. I'm going to change this. So I'm going to say Garvin becomes the top button man in Joel Gillette's gang, single-handedly dismantling the Booby Boys and developing a para-parental relationship with the gang lead, Joel Gillette. So Garvin becomes the top button man in Joel Gillette's gang, single-handedly dismantling the Booby Boys, practically. Don't think we need this. This is a B story. And then escalation 4. We don't need these. I think we need yeah. Let's go here. I'm going to say twist. Garvin discovers the gang he's working for is actually Garvin discovers that Whitey and Joel's gang actually killed his father. So while recovering Whitey's car from the pound, comma, I wish I could have put a comma there. Yep. Garvin discovers that Whitey actually, and therefore Joel's gang actually killed his father. He's been working for his father's killer the whole time. Nice twist, right? And then, yeah, and the resolution, there doesn't have to be escalation 6, that's extra. The resolution, Garvin kills everyone in the Joel Gillette gang. Now, what's Joel's gang's name? The real gang that was fighting the Booby Boys was the Vonda gang. But Vonda, I don't know, it doesn't ring a bell. Booby Boys is funny. So I think I'm going to go with Vanta, like Vanta Black, which has sort of a fashion connotation. Because Joel Gillette's gang is the sort of the fashion Euro gang. So where would I store that? But this is now the story. So story A. 1994, Miami, Righty Jackson, a button man for Joel Gillette's drug gang. Let's say Vanta drug gang. Let's call it the Vanta gang. Okay. Accidentally kills James Robert Hackett. Well, actually kills an accountant. An innocent bystander. James Robert Hackett. While trying to kill the leader of the rival Booby Boys gang. Actually blows up. I'm an innocent accountant. James Robert Hackett, while trying to kill the leader of the rival Booby Boys gang. Okay, so that's a good one. I like it. And then James Robert's son, 22-year-old Garvin Hackett, doesn't know who killed his father but vows revenge. And let's say unemployed. Unemployed 22-year-old Garvin Hackett doesn't know who his father is, who killed his father but vows revenge. First escalation. So for those of you who know, I use a very simple writing method where a story is a setup, which sets up a dramatic game, and then you have a couple of escalations, a twist, and a resolution. And I do that for each story. So this is the A story. It's the broadest story of the screenplay. So that was our setup, right? Sets up a nice dramatic game, and we want to know now, will Garvin get revenge or not? So escalation 1, Garvin grabs an M60 machine gun and walks down his suburban street searching for his father's killers. Escalation 2, in prison, Whitey Jackson convinces Garvin that Booby Boys actually killed his father and trains Garvin to kill so he can avenge his father's death. And offers to train. Okay, escalation 3. Garvin becomes the top button man in Joel Gillette's gang. I misspelled his name. It's Gillette with one. Garvin becomes the top button man in Joel Gillette's gang, practically single-handedly dismantling the Booby Boys. Twist. While recovering Whitey's car from the pound, Garvin discovers that Whitey and therefore Joel's gang actually killed his father, and that he's been working for his father's killers the whole time. Okay, the resolution. Garvin kills everyone in the Joel Gillette gang. There it is. That's the story. Cool. This is a much better story than what we had when we started. Let's see. Okay, cool. We got it. That's good. So now, let's see what else we can work with. So let's look at the characters a little bit, because I know we have a lot of information here. Let's look at this one. I'm going to call him James Robert Hackett so that we know his name. James Robert Hackett. And let's go lowercase just to keep everything consistent. Okay. James Robert Hackett, he description of American white male, dark salt and pepper hair, salt of the earth type. His game is to keep the peace in his house. That's what he's always trying to do. He's always trying to, like, you know, he reminds me of Flanders from The Simpsons, you know. Strategy, dark salt and pepper hair, salt of the earth type, a emotionally stable. You know who I think when I think of him? I think of Sergeant Mike Vining, that internet meme of that guy who's kind of nerdy but was a beast in the military, doing several tours in Vietnam. Yeah. So let's say yeah, veteran who, like Mike Vining, looks innocuous, but probably killed a lot of people in Nam. That's funny. American white male, dark salt and pepper hair, salt of the earth type, emotionally stable veteran who, like Mike Vining, looks innocuous but probably killed a lot of people in Nam. Looks like an innocuous, God-fearing Methodist accountant, but probably killed a lot of people in Nam. His game is to keep the peace in his house. His strategy is diplomacy. So we got 4 decisions for this guy, but I don't really have his middle decisions, right? So I know his last decision is to stop for a donut. That's what gets him killed. Right? And I know his wife is arguing with him about Garvin. So in order to get Garvin, in order to avoid an escalating fight with, what's Garvin's mom's name? Do I have a good name for her? I don't have Garvin's mom's name yet. She's Cuban though. So poor James Robert has no idea what he got into. Let's see. So in order to avoid escalating a fight with his wife, he agrees to get Garvin to come down to breakfast. And then decision 4, fight with his wife. So in order to avoid a fight with his wife, he leaves for work. And that's his third decision. And then he stops for a donut. So this fight with his wife, this is kind of funny. What if, like, so his wife gained weight, right? So I'm thinking there's a donut involved, right? I think it's kind of funny if his wife takes a donut. His wife takes a donut from him because they're all trying to lose weight. And she's really big. So she's policing him, right? His wife takes James's donut off his plate because they are all trying to lose weight. And James agrees. So you've got like a guy who sort of plays by the rules. You know, that's what we agreed on. Yes. I like it. Yes. And then she gets angry. And then, in order to avoid an escalating fight with his wife, he leaves for work. Okay. And then decision 4, he stops for a donut. I think, yes. I think that's pretty good, actually. I just need to put into decision 1 about Garvin's. How do I say it? Failure to launch. He agrees to get Garvin to come to breakfast. Yes, that's actually very good. That's actually what's happening. So I'm going to put a note and yep. So we got that. So we got that he's a Vietnam vet. He's a religious Methodist. So we got he leaves work to avoid conflict. And then he tells Garvin one day he will discover his talent. Everyone is good at something. One day he will discover one day he will discover his talent. And then I'm going through this, just scanning all the. So the Presbyterians, they were the crowd that valued education, structured leadership, and local civic clubs. And then the Methodists, teachers, shopkeepers, mid-level managers, skilled tradesmen, and everyday families who had just moved to Florida for a fresh start. Welcoming, suburban, family-centric, and rapidly growing. South Florida oh, shoot. So I gotta take some notes. So I just had a good idea. So Garvin, I'll just put here, when he starts walking down the street with his M60, there are a lot of kids playing out in the street. And so I would imagine that prevents the police from taking a more violent approach. The kids love the machine gun. They can even ask him where he's going. It's just the idea of like a bunch of kids in a suburban neighborhood. I like that. All right. Going back to James Robert Hackett, right? Let's see. So the Methodists, the vibe, welcoming, suburban, South Florida. Methodism was largest of these three in the 1950s because it perfectly captured the massive influx of middle-class Midwesterners moving into newly built tract housing suburbs. They were highly active in community charity, youth groups, and organizing neighborhood events. Nice. And maybe that's what he should start talking about. Yeah. Okay, so I need to do some research on stealing cars, because Garvin needs to get good at stealing cars. So let me put that into research questions for Garvin, which we haven't covered yet. I see Gerald gets a third. You get that? And then we gotta go here. Garvin, how would you steal cars in 1994? Garvin steals a lot of cars. All right, we'll write that down as a note and go back to Garvin's dad, James Robert. You know what I'm going to do? We've been talking about his dad so long, I'm going to give him his own tab. That way I can just flip back and forth. Okay, so the Methodists were highly active in community, charity, youth group organizing events. So I need to do some research. So let me do the research. I'm going to pop out the research questions. And I'm going to throw another research question under James Robert here. Here. What is the Methodist community event that James might be looking forward to? And I'll put a tab. Methodists were highly active in the community charity, youth groups, and organizing neighborhood events. So, yep, there you go. We'll add that. Go back to James Robert. Let's see. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put uh, background. Cultural backdrop. I don't like that title. Titles are hard. Let's see if we can do a little research to get that title right, because we're going to reuse that over and over again. So let's head over to one of the AIs and see what it says. Hey Gemini, I'm dealing with a character who is in his 40s in 1994 in South Florida. He's a Methodist, a white Anglo. He is a Vietnam veteran, and he's planning something that's either a youth group or some very Methodist coded event that he's sort of talking about to his wife. What kind of event might he be talking about to his wife? The year is 1994, and he's in the kitchen having breakfast. Let's see. What am I even doing? I came here to get a title. Look at me. I'm already doing research. Well, it's already going. Let me ask Claude the title. Hey, Claude. So I have a character sheet, and I need a section that sort of talks about the sort of cultural background or cultural milieu in which that character lives. In this case, he's a Methodist, and it talks about him being a Methodist and the hierarchy and the religions between the Presbyterians and the Methodists, that kind of stuff. It's stuff that doesn't appear directly in the character, but it's just background information that informs the character. What would the title of that section of the character sheet be? Do you have a suggestion? All right, we're going back here. Let's see. If you want a peak Florida Methodist culture, this is it. The Warren Willis United Methodist Camp in Leesburg, where every single United Methodist youth group in the state went and still goes for summer camp. The conversation, he's likely stressing over the logistics of the church van, almost certainly a finicky 15-passenger 1988 Ford Econoline. He's mapping out the drive to Florida term. Oh my God, this is great. A fish fry. That's pretty funny. Food-based fellowship. I didn't know that. This is good. As a vet and a guy in his 40s, he might be the organizer of a local men's chapter fundraiser. Conversation, he's talking to his wife about sourcing fresh catfish or snook. Complaining about the price of charcoal at Publix. Organizing the shift rotations for the other men. A local mission work camp. Nah. Oh, right. This is right after Hurricane Andrew, so I gotta put that in there. Yeah. All right. Um, so I've actually getting some helpful notes about what the breakfast table might look like in the South Florida scene. So I'm just gonna copy that because it's useful. Trace finger down the yellow legal pad, pause and take a sip of black coffee. I really like the van. So let's pop back into the writing. Let's go there and see if we can't throw it at the bottom. Okay. So this is an AI, so I'm not too married to it, but we're going to synthesize it. And let's go back and see what we got for the section title, which is what we're actually here for. Okay, talk to Claude. Cultural milieu, world context, social and cultural context. I like that. Social and cultural context. I don't like milieu. I like social and cultural context. Milieu seems like a foreign word that you have to know the meaning of. Yeah, it's got a nice writerly feel, according to Claude. I don't like writerly, you know? Good writing shouldn't feel like writing, you know? So I think we got what we came for. So let's go back to writing our stuff. And let's see what we got here. So I'm going to paste here cultural backdrop, which is what I had. Social and cultural context. Okay. So I'm going to put religious demographic. And this is a 3 for 2 first, so I'll put a 3 for 1, 2, 3. And I'll put Methodist. Okay. Methodist. And then the Protestant backdrop. And I will take this and, yep. Okay. And we can bring this in. The Methodist demographic. Okay. The religious let's see, the religious backdrop. Okay. Let's say religion. And then we'll give it 3. Why not? There we go. Religion. What do I call this? Okay. I'm just going to ask Claude. I don't like to think about names that much, especially names that aren't going to end up on the screen. So let's go really quick, get ourselves some research, and talk to the Claude. Okay, Claude, I need a title that basically talks about the religious hierarchy, if you will, in this culture. Here's the actual content, and I kind of need a title for this section, and I'm struggling with the title name. Can you suggest one? I've decided on social and cultural context for the entire section, but this is a subsection about the religious part. I'll pause to this. Okay. Let's see what Claude comes up with. Religious landscape, so much better. Yeah, religious landscape. Thank you, Claude. Saved me so much time. So let's go back to writing, which is what we're here for. And so religion, and then religious backdrop. That's what Claude said, right? Just want to make sure that I didn't miss that. Let me check real quick. I'm going to take a peek. Oh, religious landscape. Yeah, religious landscape. All right, there we go. So religious landscape. And then the Presbyterians. Okay. The Methodists. All right. And then I'm going to go the Presbyterians. Upper middle class professionals. And then the Methodists. The broad middle class. And we'll go here and there. And there. And there we go. Okay, so that's the religious landscape. I like it. And we need an S under the landscape. Great. And I love the little sticky, what is these things? Emojis that Claude puts in there. Okay, and then, all right. So I need. He's an appeaser. That's his strategy. You know, he's one of these guys who likes to keep the peace because he's killed a lot of people in Nam. Oh, I gotta give him the Mike Vining glasses. 100%. Those glasses are gonna mean something. Let's see. With thick, square, Mike Vining glasses. That either belong to a family man to an innocuous guy feeling Methodist accountant or a serial killer. Probably killed a lot of people in Nam. Doesn't talk about it. But probably killed a lot of people in Nam. Okay. So gotcha. All right, our timer's up, 45 minutes straight. Let's see what we got done. We got James Robert Hackett. We got his description done. An American white male, dark salt and pepper hair, salt of the earth type, emotionally stable veteran. Well, let's clean this up. Emotionally stable, salt of the earth type. So we don't repeat ourselves. And I'll put here thick, square, Mike Vining glasses that either belong to an innocuous, God-fearing Methodist family man who works as an accountant or to a serial killer. Doesn't talk about it, but probably killed a lot of people in Nam. Okay. I like that description. And yeah. So that's it. And then keep the peace in his house as his game. His strategy is diplomacy. So he avoids a fight with his wife. She steals his donut. And he agrees that that's what they agreed on. And in order to avoid escalating the fight with his wife, he leaves for work. And then he stops for a donut. Okay, so we got a Vietnam veteran, religious Methodist, believes in Garvin. This is important for his discussion with his wife. When chatting with his wife. And this is, we got to go back to the Methodist. He's planning something. So he's planning the Methodist thing. So let's go back to research real quick and pull that out of Chet. Let's go. That was in Gemini. The Warren Willis camp is great. Yeah. Okay. Let's stop it. And let's say this one looks great. What I want to do is get a sense of how a person might talk about this colloquially with his wife, as if it's a thing that everyone knows about in the house. Like, how might they refer to this? Let's see. Oh, come on. I guess I'm gonna have to restart it. Here we go. There we go. Gotta hand it to Gemini. Reloaded fast. Let's see. When a couple has been in the church community for years, they develop a kind of shorthand. They won't use the full formal names of anything because they're already fixed pillar of the yearly calendar. Here's how a Methodist couple in 1994 South Florida would actually talk about his trip using the exact colloquialisms and inside baseball of the culture. It's just Leesburg. So Warren Willis United Methodist Camp to Florida Methodists. The camp and the town are synonymous. How they say it. All the kids are set for Leesburg. We're heading up to Leesburg. Why? It's the ultimate destination. If you say Leesburg in a Florida Methodist church, everyone knows exactly what you mean. While some churches were starting to use sexier 90s names like Youth Surge or The Edge, a traditionalist or a guy in his 40s would almost certainly call the youth group MYF. The van, an entity, every church had one. It was usually late 80s, 15-passenger, beast with finicky transmission and a specific smell. A mix of damp Florida humidity, stale Cheerios, and old upholstery. It wasn't a church van, it was just the van. Okay, there was no sun pass. Stopping at tolls. There'd be a toll bag. Royal Crown velvet sack or plastic Tupperware filled with quarters. Oh, yeah. So I gotta fill the toll bag for the van before we head up to Leesburg. Yeah. Let's see if there's anything here. Just scanning. Let's see. So he might say something like, I gotta refill the toll bag before we take the van up to Leesburg. And he would have a AAA triptych and a yellow marker. I think I just want him to say the church van. Would he say the church van? I want the audience to know that he's talking about a religious trip, that he's sort of in the religious community. Let's see. Even with marriage, it sounds completely natural, especially if he's treating it like an assignment. Okay. Oh, Jesus, it's trying to write for me. I'd appreciate it if you didn't try to write for me. But I like the why this works great for the audience section. Can you just give me just a couple of lines of text explaining the church van, Leesburg, toll bag, triptych, and maybe and I don't need you to do this in a writing style. I just want you to write it matter of factly so I could put it into the character notes and a highlighter. Let's see. I mean, this is authentic stuff, but Gemini is a little bit too much. Okay, I'll just copy this stuff and I'll see. The more research you do, the more you got to synthesize. So it's kind of like more work. But some of these details are good. It's just you don't want to overdo it. Gemini always overdoes it. It has a tendency. All right, let's see. Back to writing. So social and cultural context. Let's go religious landscape, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll go give them a title, whatever. Right, and then okay, and I'll paste. Look at all the stuff it's gonna add. A church van. Okay. The Methodists, the Presbyterians, the church van. Okay. I don't need the function. Leesburg, what it is, the central hub for United Methodist Youth Camping in Florida, located in the city of Leesburg. Simply Leesburg using the town. Name establishes the character's insider status. Okay, I don't need this. Okay, cool. And then the toll bag, let me add. Because this has to be underneath the Methodists. So I'll give it a 5. And Leesburg, give it a 5. Oopsie. All right. And the toll bag, give it a 5. What is it? A designated container, frequently a velvet crown royal bag, an old bank deposit bag, or a piece of Tupperware filled with quarters and small bills. Good. Because electronic toll collection did not exist in Florida, driving the Florida Turnpike required stopping at physical toll to pay cash or toss coins into baskets. A preloaded toll bag was a mandatory piece of travel. Okay. The triptych. This is great. What it is, a personalized ring-bound or staple-bound flipbook map created by the American Automobile for members routing a specific road trip. Okay. Before GPS and smartphones, I don't need the function here. Yeah, I don't need this at all. Okay. And then the last thing I need is, okay. His psychological profile. So let me take that in. So let's swap out. Let's go back to research mode real quick. And see, let's go back to Claude, because Claude's better for this stuff. And I will say, hey Claude, so I've got this profile of the behaviors of an appeaser. And I want this to be in sort of a psychology section of the notes for the character. This is what's in there. How would you title this section? Let's see what he says. Appeasement spectrum, conflict avoidance profile, fawn response variance. Huh. Using the trauma psychology term, fawn is the 4th stress response alongside fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Huh. Didn't know that. Okay. Adds theoretical grounding. Appeasement spectrum, it's compact. It implies the sliding scale your content already uses, and it reads like something out of a clinical profile. Yeah. Yeah, but this is a character sheet. So I just wanted to be very clear for people when they're reading that this section describes, potential appeasement behaviors on a spectrum that he might, because he's an appeaser, this is a spectrum of behaviors he might exhibit. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just going to go appeasement behaviors. Yeah, appeasement behaviors. That's it. That's what it's going to be. All right, go back to writing. And let's go to James Robert. And let's call it appeasement behaviors. And then we got all the... Let's see. Let's just take this. Yeah, we got a 5er. And then we'll go here. And we'll go 1, 2, 3. Appeasement behaviors. Okay. And then I'll put 1, 2, 3, kitchen. Okay. He might be wearing a faded polo porter shirt from his past church retreat or local veterans post. Canvas boat shoes without socks. Aviator glasses. He's trying to use a yellow legal pad to budget church funds while his wife manages the morning routine. So, yeah. They don't know his Catholic Cuban wife is anything but the morning routine. She's a handful. Let's see. Atmosphere. The ceiling fan is already on high speed because the South Florida humidity is leaking through the jealousy window. Oh, yeah, the jealousy windows. That's good. Even though it's only 7:30 a.m. Copy of the Miami Herald in Fort Lauderdale. Yep. A set of Cafe Bustelo. Even Anglo households in South Florida used it. Or a standard Mr. Coffee drip machine. Brewing Maxwell House. So it's going to be a Cafe Bustelo. Yep. Cool. Cool. All right. So we sort of built up the social and cultural context, right? Let's see. Let's see, notes. We got a social cultural context. Yeah. Cool. So we have sort of the dialogue for that first scene sort of writing itself now. Let's give him something to do. And I don't mind. Let's see. The accommodator always says, I don't mind whatever you want when picking a restaurant, movie, or plan. Genuinely flexible, low ego about preferences. The shadow side. Over time, people around him never actually learn what they want, and they quietly accumulate small resentments. Okay. Mild. When the tension rises in the group, they crack a joke, change the subject, or suddenly remember something urgent. They're not lying. They're just instinctively routing around conflict like water around a rock. This can make them excellent in tense social situations and exhausting as intimate partners. So I think that's what he is. He's a deflector. Moderate, the false agreeer. They say, you're right, totally, in the moment to end an argument, and then do exactly what they were going to do anyway, or stew privately. They've learned the verbal agreement is the fast exit from discomfort. This erodes trust over time because their yes stops meaning anything. Toxic, the enabler. Through silence. When something genuinely harmful is happening, a toxic coworker, an abusive dynamic, a friend makes a self-destructive choice, they say nothing and frame it to themselves as not my place. They're silent, isn't neutral. Yeah, so they're not really enablers. I mean, you could say it kind of enables Garvin. So I'm going to go with toxic and mild. Because he doesn't falsely agree with anybody. Yeah. Okay, cool. And I think that's it. I think we've got a little bit of synthesis on James Robert Hackett. He's becoming a little bit more real. The scene's becoming a little bit more real. And which is really the scene around his first decision, right? Cool. We're not going to write the scene yet. We're going to create an outline first, but it's nice to have this as backdrop. All right, guys, that's about it. I think this is a good stopping point. If you got this far, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it. And what I usually like to do is I like to mention that if you guys like the tools that you see me using here to write the script, and you want to learn the craft, I'm a professional script doctor, and if you want to learn the exact tools demonstrated in this video that working writers use to write, rewrite, and develop stories quickly, I have a lecture that shows you how, and you can find the link here or in the description. The tools apply to any form of narrative storytelling, screenplays, novels, comics, television, games, all of it. And it includes full scene breakdowns from well-known films and hands-on guidance for anyone serious about telling stories. I will say that if you're kind enough to support the channel by buying the lecture, a portion of every sale supports the Arts Accelerator, a nonprofit dedicated to developing the skills of emerging artists. And you can find out more about them at artsaccelerator.org. That's about it. Yeah. For those of you who are watching and are interested, here is the oh no, there it is. There it is. That's the QR code for the screenwriting masterclass lecture. So once again, it's a lecture that allows you to learn basically the tools that I'm using to write this screenplay. And as you see, they're productive. You keep making progress quickly as you use the tools. So that's about it. If you want writer's block to come to an end, this is a good place to start. And with that, I want to thank you guys again for sticking with me through this synthesis block. There's plenty to go. So I hope you join me next time. And thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day. Have a great evening.
Sun is falling, speed